Welcome to the Kind of Nerdy Girls podcast. Fandom, fun, funny.
Kind of Nerdy Girls podcast.
Oh, if you've been binging Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, this is definitely the special Kind of Nerdy Girls episode for you. I actually had an opportunity to talk to Tom Warner, who is in the episode about the UFO abductions that happened in Massachusetts. So he's got a book out now. He really didn't talk about this stuff much, but when Netflix said, hey, we want to share your story and the story of this small community in Massachusetts that was so affected by this, he said yes. So we get to hear his story here on the Kind of Nerdy Girls. And as you know, this fits in well with a lot of what we've been talking about. If you have not checked out my new show, which I love so much, collaborating with Kitsy Duncan from Oddity Files and the amazing spirit medium Tiffany Rice. The show is called Paranormal Crossroad. That's paranormalxroad.com to find us, and you can watch our latest episodes. We've got a brand new one coming out Friday, April 30th, part 1 of our investigation into the Athenaeum, a very famously haunted location in Indianapolis, where one of the employees was scared to stay after dark. So we investigated and helped him out. I hope enough that he is now feeling a little more peaceful at work. So watch for that on April 30th. As of right now, we are going to turn things over to welcome Mr. Tom Warner from Unsolved Mysteries to the Kind of Nerdy Girls. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, KJ. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh, I'm really excited to be talking with you, Tom. We've been talking about how you're going to be on the show all week long here, and a lot of people who said, I want to know his story because I've experienced weird things, and he's so brave that he's talking about it. So let's get right into it. This changed your life, right? September 1st, 1969. What happened?
Well, KJ, I was 10 years old at the time, as you know, and I was at a neighbor's house, and I was coloring, and I had this mental telepathy, and so I walked to the window, and this inner voice said, "You have to go home now." And I looked at the girl who I was coloring with, and I said, "Debbie, I have to go home now." And she goes, "Well, why? Is your mother calling?" I said, "No." I said, "I don't know. Maybe it's God. I don't know." And I bolted out of the room. And I bolted into the next room where Debbie's grandmother, who we called Graham, was there, and her sister was on the phone. And they looked at me, and I must have had terrible fright on my face. And I said, "I have to go home." And I bolted out the room, and I went through the coal room, which was all dark and everything because there's no lights in there. And I busted out of that door, and I was like running like a deer. And all of a sudden, as I got to this rock, which is right after their driveway, all the sounds disappeared or gone. And I got the weirdest feeling. And it's like everything was going in slow motion. I saw my hands barely moving. And I looked to my left, and a UFO dropped right out of the sky.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah. It's not what I wanted to see. I mean, what are you going to do? Say, "Hey, get out of here."
Right. Right. Well, and now, Tom, you've got your book, right? You've got Beyond the Stars, which is the entire story of how this day changed your life.
It did. There's so much in the book that that wasn't in the movie, obviously, because not the movie, but the show I was in, Unsolved Mysteries, which was on Netflix. It went to number 1 when it showed, boom, right to the top. And I've been getting calls from all over the world, and so many people have come forward and thanked me for, coming forward. But I knew it was going to change my life. I knew I was, there'd be some skeptics naturally, and, because, I call them flat earthers. They would have believed the earth was flat to this day. And that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I told my story to help others. That's the only reason I did it. It's the only reason I wrote my autobiography, Beyond the Stars, it's to help people. And anybody listening out there, want to reach me, I can be found on Facebook. I can be found anywhere, really. The aliens found me after all.
Right, right. If the aliens can find you, we all might as well be able to as well.
Especially with Google. It's not a problem, trust me.
Tom, when Netflix, when the series came to you, Unsolved Mysteries, was there any hesitation? Like, I don't want this all coming back up?
Well, I had no intention ever telling the story, and then I was asked to be in a documentary, and I don't know whoever. Everyone sort of knew it a little bit, but it was a really well-kept secret. And, other people had seen it, had experiences. And I was in a documentary, and then I got a call from WGBH out of Boston, and they asked me to do an interview, and I did. But then that interview was used in a way that it shouldn't have been. They took parts of it, and I didn't like that. And then probably 2 months later, I got a call from Unsolved Mysteries, and, my daughter was a big fan of, Robert Stack, of course, all that. And they said, would you be willing to do an interview? And I hesitated because I wanted the truth to be told. And so many times in these things, it's being told in a way that they just tell it the way they want to tell it. And I didn't want my life told like that. But I had already started my book. I really did my book so I could just put a copy up on my shelf that, my grandkids one day could read, when I have grandchildren. But it was just for the future. I had no intention of sharing any of this. But after Unsolved Mysteries aired, it changed everything.
So it's interesting you bring up, that you want, your grandchildren someday to know this story. How did this, incident happening to you affect how you talked about things like the paranormal and UFOs and the unexplained with your own children so that they wouldn't be scared?
Well, they got to experience my life as it went along. So they were brought up with this bizarre things that have happened. And I talked to them quite honestly about it. And never, even when they're little, I told them the whole story. They were used to it. So they knew the story. They just, my son goes, hey, Dad, I don't mind seeing one from a distance. I don't want one up close. Thanks.
So if any aliens are listening, leave Tom's kids alone, please.
I'm a spooky person to have around a campfire, I'll tell you that.
But you know what, Tom? You're my kind of spooky person because, like you said, you didn't ask for this to happen to you. You're just sharing your truth. You're not trying to prove it to anyone. It's just what happened, right?
It's just what happened. And if you read the book, there's a lot in there in the book. Like I've had contact where a human-alien hybrid came up and left me a note. And I'm like, it took me 8 years to figure out the note.
Wait, what? What did the note say?
You go like, oh my God, maybe I don't want to be around this guy. No,
I do.
Oh, well, if you're ever out east, I'm in the same house that I grew up in. The Warner, 1835 Warner Homestead, and we've been in it for 6 generations. And so I'm not leaving then, I'm not leaving now. The thing is, there's things they only could get so much in the show, and the Unsolved Mysteries show, and it really was showing how it affected a community and how they responded to that, and then they just didn't want to talk about it. And basically, people didn't want to talk about it. And then it went on. What they didn't put in was 2 weeks after the first event happened, I had a second event, which was witnessed as well. So I was the only person ever witnessed in a UFO beam, witnessed in a beam and disappear in that beam, and then witnessed put back down. Still want to come visit, KJ, or what?
Tom, yes, I do. So I've only got another minute here with you, but in addition to being on the radio, I do a show called Paranormal Crossroad, and my co-star lives outside of Boston, and she's trying to get me, because we're doing the show remotely right now. Right. So I'm like, that wouldn't be too far from you. I'd love to come to your house.
I'm going to jump to the Berkshires. And and you can always have me back on your show here. I'm always willing to come on and talk with anybody. And like I said, I did all this to come forward, write the autobiography, be on the TV show, do these interviews. I'm doing this to help others. That's the only reason to do it, is to help others. And there have been people who've come forward and saying, I haven't had peace in 50 years until you spoke. So it's my responsibility.
Exactly. Tom, you're my people. Exactly. It's like if one person listening right now goes, okay, maybe I'm not so weird. Thank you you for sharing your story. Now right? You're not so weird.
It's a wake-up call. I feel like I'm a messenger, and there's a message to the whole thing. And we have to take care of this each other, and we have to take care of this planet.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. The book is Beyond the Stars, available now on Amazon.com, or you can get it autographed by going to TomWarnerBeyondTheStars.com.
Thank you, KJ. You have a great day, and thank you for everyone in Indianapolis for tuning in.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Join the Nerdy Girls Podcast.
The Kind of Nerdy Girls are proud to be a part of the Just What I Needed network, and we certainly hope we were just what you needed. To support the show, you can get yourself some merch and show off that you are kind of nerdy. Go to kindofnerdygirls.com and click on the Kind of Nerdy shop. And while you're there, you can also support the show by getting access to behind-the-scenes footage, videos of our podcast, and never before heard episodes from our classic Kind of Nerdy vault. Just become a patron at kindofnerdygirls.com.